Hey guys, this is Jeremy from District 14. Today I have my weekly video about the Hunger Games. Today's video isn't really a headcanon, it's just more me theorizing about something that was said in the Hunger Games and wondering about the implications it might have on this entire universe as a whole. Now there is a lot that we don't know about the reaping and the volunteer process in the Hunger Games. Now, I have my notes. So what we do know, there is one girl and one boy from every district between 12 and 18 reaped for the Hunger Games. The quarter quells can be different. We know that the reaping requires mandatory attendance. Katniss says if you're not on your deathbed, you're expected to be there, and if you're not there, they will go verify. And if you are not in fact dying, you're going to be in trouble. We know that career tributes typically volunteer, but we know from Catching Fire that volunteering trumps being drawn. Now, I will make some future videos on some of these intricacies, but here's what I want to talk about. We know that Katniss volunteered in the Hunger Games, the 74th Hunger Games, for her sister Prim.
Prim! Prim! I volunteer! I volunteer as tribute!
We know that volunteers in District 12 don't happen. She says as much herself that what she did was the radical thing. However, on page 22 of my copy, she actually says, District 12 hasn't had a volunteer in decades, and the protocol has become rusty. This means she is not the first volunteer ever, she's just the first volunteer in decades. What happened with these other volunteers? We know of 4 District 12 winners. Katniss and Peeta from the 74th Games, Haymitch from the 50th Games, and another tribute from a previous games that has since passed away. I think we can likely rule out that any of the previous volunteers that happened would have happened because of a protective sibling relationship like Katniss and Prim had. I feel very confident that this would have come up at some point. We also know, based on the number of winners from District 12, that whoever volunteered did not survive. They were not a winner of their games. So I came up with 6 possible reasons for why someone in District 12 might have volunteered, and here they are in no real particular order. The first, escape from an abusive parent. We know that child abuse exists in District 12. We see this with Peeta, whose mom hit him on the face. She full-on struck him because he accidentally burned, or maybe purposefully burned, 2 loaves of bread. Could it be that there was a child who was so abused, he or she thought, rather than get slowly murdered here, I'm going to go into the games and take my chances? Another possibility might be terminal illness. If you were a, say, 17 or 18-year-old, maybe even younger than that. I mean, the reapings go from 12 to 18. But imagine you are a child who knew you were going to die of an illness you could not prevent. Is it possible you might decide, rather than just stay here and waste away, I will save maybe a friend's life who's been reaped, or even just I'll go to the Capitol, maybe I can win and they can save my life there. We know that medicine requires money in District 12. Mrs. Everdeen, with her apothecary / healing type business, she often treats for as freely as she can, but it's made very clear that District 12 is incredibly impoverished, and I think it's possible that someone might have a treatable disease but would die for lack of money in District 12. And I shouldn't say it's possible, I'd say it's likely. Has anyone maybe volunteered out of a desire for revenge? Perhaps someone's sibling or friend was reaped in a previous year and someone volunteered to try and somehow seek revenge at the Capitol. This one I feel like is a little far-fetched, but I think it's still worth talking about. I can imagine a few scenarios where someone might think, perhaps someone thought, if I go and I win, I can exact revenge on the Capitol for what they have done to our district and my people, my family, my loved ones. We know that people in the Hunger Games starve to death all the time. Katniss remarked that the tributes from last year were kids who had never known a decent meal a single day in their entire life. Maybe someone was tired of starving and decided, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot for Life of Luxury, and if at the very least I'll have a few weeks of good meals and then be put out of this misery. Is it possible that one of the previous volunteers did it to commit suicide? If you were suicidal because of the living conditions in District 14, it wouldn't take much to think, if you're going to kill yourself anyway, let's see if maybe I can somehow win these games and become wealthy and survive. I also think that was a stretch, but it's possible. And my last reason is romance. Now, I don't think that PETA would have volunteered had he not been reaped in the first games that he participated in, but I can certainly imagine some scenarios where someone might volunteer. Now, the issue is that volunteering is always same-sex. However, we have some anecdotal evidence, as well as some direct evidence from the 10th Hunger Games, that the LGBTQ community is present in Panem and the districts. Well, that's an obvious statement. Of course, it is present, but it seems like it may not be prohibited. In Ballad, we have a character who we, with a throwaway line, can pretty well establish is a lesbian, or at least bisexual. Same with a member of the Capitol. So, is it possible that someone, a young man or a young woman, saw their partner get reaped, and they loved him or her so much that they volunteered to go into the games so that the one they loved wouldn't die? I don't know. What do you think? Leave some comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, happy reading.